Today we have Renold Yip from YiPsan Bicycles. Renold, tell us about yourself, how long you've been doing this, what city you're from.
I'm originally from Hong Kong in Asia, China now, and now I live in Fort Collins, Colorado, and have been living there for close to 5-6 years.
5-6 years, huh?
Yeah, and before that I lived. Before that we were living on the East Coast and also had been on the Seattle area.
Seattle as well.
So in a way that also helped me to see different culture.
Absolutely.
And even I think in mountain biking we talk about terrain.
Yes.
So the terrain in Seattle is so different from the outskirts of DC.
Yes.
And it's also very different from Colorado. So that in a way opened up my eyes as in, okay, different rider, different style, different uses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that makes it very interesting because when we build a bike, we also sort of think about, okay, how are you going to use it,
right.
So-called fit for purpose. So it helped me to foresee if I have a customer from the West Coast, I can somewhat understand, okay, the terrain and the weather and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And can take into account in the design of it.
No, that's brilliant. I think that's a very important need, and a lot of builders get away with not having that knowledge because most of their customers are local.
Yes.
Like within the same area code. So that's really eye-opening. As I travel the country, you really realize I'm in Northern California, like, wow, I know so little about how other people in Sedona use their bikes, for example.
Right. And I'm sure when you say compared to the East Coast, and I guess that's why they always talk about the higher BB and all that stuff.
Right.
I think sometimes in California, or even in Seattle, you may not quite see, okay, why do you want that? But after you've been there and written some, you realize, oh yeah, that's why you want that feature,
right.
or you want that design perspective. So it's sometimes interesting when I hear, okay, where are you from? And we put that into the equation.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
and it's another way to differentiate a custom builder from a big box builder.
Right.
It's one bike.
Standard geometry.
For
exactly
the whole world.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into this bike. What do we have here?
This here, the customer wanted something that is somewhat low maintenance. So you see, it's a rigid bike. It's got a roll-off hub. Most of the things are very so-called bomb-proof. He doesn't have a lot of time to fix up a bike. So once it's put together, he wants to just be able to enjoy it. And he also he's not a so-called particularly a lightweight kind of person like you and I. So he wants the big front tire for a bit of suspension without actually using a shock. So we came up with this idea. He's actually similar height to us. So we also went in with the 650B.
650B?
Rear wheel here. So yeah, that will be doing the job as propelling. So he also would not have to worry about the drivetrain ratio, standover height and all that stuff. So we went with this size, and then to match with the fat front tire, actually the diameter is very close.
Exactly.
It also makes it very good to, when we design, we don't have to quite mess around to make sure this is good enough.
Yeah, I've seen these 69er bikes, and I've used them. They work, but they look so funny. They look so bad. I don't want to use it. So I know this is more like a 29er outer diameter. So to match it with a 6050 is
quite interesting. I think again, especially for people our body size, height-wise, this size is really, I would say, perfect. And in fact, my personal bike is a 650 wheel bike, and I think more people hopefully will start to see the benefit. It does have some of the benefit of a 29er, but it also provides a benefit that is more maneuverable. And again, for us, we don't have to worry so much about the whole standover thing.
Right. So show us some of the details.
Some of the details on this bike would be definitely the front end with the fork. It's all hand built, is to fit the big tire. So the width is 135. It's sort of segmented fork, but at the same time has sort of a half lug look on it. So carrying this film on the whole head tube and the front end is so-called bi-lam construction with a force lug. And somewhat carryover with a reinforcement on the seat tube. But the back end is somewhat more basic in that sense. The only thing I would really mention to people would be the seat stay attachment. I always like to do this sort of a traditional side tag attachment. And of course for a mountain bike, in fact, what it does give us is the super clearance here. Because if your contact is right at the back, yeah, you would have a lot less clearance there. So it's somewhat of a feature, but at the same time, it gives us that benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
You see clearance and
Yeah.
it flows.
Yeah, and of course,
rather well.
you will never see any more a production bike with this, especially on a mountain bike with the side tag.
How come?
Well, it's just a lot more work to make this happen. So this piece here is hand cut and put on separately, and then you can put the seat stays onto the frame. So it's just basically doubling the amount of work, and that's why production bike, they would miter it and then weld directly to the back of the seat tube. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then are these your touches, the stem and the
Exactly.
seat post, and
For this
very
bike,
special.
yeah, customer went with a custom post and a custom stem, and if you can sort of somewhat look at that, it's again the same theme is force lug. So it really shows is somewhat different, but at the same time we have the open face bar mount, so if you want to change handlebar, it's very easy. So those are some of the features. Initially, I normally don't do a full open face because I sometimes don't like the look of the mounting point here, but he wants to prefer that kind of bar, and sometimes he uses these full back bars. You have to have that open face, otherwise it cannot go on. Yeah, you cannot turn around the corner there. Yeah.
Right.
So that really give him all the things that he would want, but at the same time a very special sort of a handmade aesthetic to it. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I like what I see. At first glance, it looks with a flat, it's very understated. But as you look at the thought that went into the tire selection.
What also I have learned on the finishing, the final finishing, the paint, is if you ask any painter, they will also tell you this is actually very hard to do with the matte and the gloss, because the final coating is completely different. So most bikes, even though you can have flames and whatnot, the final clear coat is one thing.
Yes.
But for this bike, it's done 2 steps, because the coating for the matte is different from the coating to the gloss. So in fact, when it came to finally getting it painted, I was somewhat shocked when my painter told me, hey, this thing is going to cost more because, it's the different steps and it requires extra masking and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think it came out pretty good. You're right, it's somewhat understated, but then when you get near, you can see all the features.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and even the head tube here has sort of a lug, sort of a mask.
Yeah. It's huge. So, tell me about your tools. You don't use big CNC machines. You use something different, right?
Some in the industry or in the frame building World Cup know that I only use hand tools. It's somewhat influenced by some of the masters like Richard Sachs or Dave Kirk. They don't even use any machines. I have a power tool, a drill, but I don't have like a mill or lathe. So it does create a slower process, but it also helped me to see the process more clearly, because on a mill, you make a mistake, you need a new tube.
Right.
But on here, you have more time to sort of look at it and think about it.
Right.
And especially even each miter, you have more time to sort of go through the process. And it just sort of gives you, I think, more attention to the final detail. Yeah. And along the way, of course, you keep thinking about the customer and the final product. So it just gives me more time to go through that.
Just more detail, more flexibility to do.
Exactly. And in a way, when you have sort of features you want to put in, it also allows me that flexibility.
Right. And one thing I want to touch on was fitting. I understand you have a background in fitting, and it's a concern I have sometimes, with other builders. They're great welders, but they're not necessarily the best fitters, or they don't have any training.
Right.
And
in my case, I also kind of usually mention to my customers or people who are interested, I'm trained by Sorata as a certified fitter, and I have actually worked in bike shops who only focus in doing fitting and custom bikes. So I think that background, before I learned to build and actually choose building as my career, has sort of provided me that background to make sure the bike can look great, but if it doesn't fit well and ride right, as in again we talk about terrain, if he's going to be riding centuries or he's only going to ride 10 miles every time. So we will take all those information and the fitting part and make sure the bike will fit and work the way he wants it to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so I think that background somewhat differentiates me from some other builders who, like you say, it could be a great welder, but so-called the front end of the business may not be as clear how they're going to handle it.
Right.
And in my view is when they buy a bike, it's not just the bike that they are getting, it's also the experience, the interaction,
service,
and of course, of course, the final product got to be good, but the process is very important.
What about the typical customer? Do they know what fits them? Some probably do, some don't. How do you?
You're right. Some do, some don't. So my approach would be both measurements, like most people would do, but also looking at what they have, what's their history. Yeah, and in some case, today we use pictures, videos, because just looking at it would give us a lot of information, which is exactly the approach when you do a professional fitting. As a fitter, you would just look at them pedal on a static bike to find out, okay, is there something we can improve and to make the rider enjoy more and just be more comfortable or provide more power to the bike and things like that. Yeah.
Right.
So what I would use is not just the measurement, but sometimes pictures, videos to so-called complement the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. I learned a lot in such a short time.
It's great talking with you.
Yes, and come back later and show us another bike.
Thank you. Yeah.